water cycle. Enclosed, finite. Nature gives us only so much water. There is no more. The perfect water cycle, ideal, idyllic. But the pretty pictures are a fiction. Wherever man comes into contact with water, he interferes with it, abuses it, or pollutes it. In New Zealand, we are starting to realize that this irresponsibility must be checked. At the start of the cycle, the pure sky. Clouds and precipitation becoming snow and ice. The immediate appeal of a clean, white environment, gradually being despoiled. This is Mount Ruapehu in summer, when the snows have melted. The melting snows run into the alpine lakes, which make up that proverbial scenic wonderland we so proudly display on our travel posters. But the machines we're introducing here destroy the silence, to spoil the beauty and foul the water. However, the greatest precipitation is not snow, but rain, and here man interferes again. The total amount of rain falling remains the same, but the land on which it falls is often cleared. Once this absorbent mantle of vegetation has been stripped, there is nothing to hold the water back. The result, bigger floods. Heavy rain falling on cleared land produces erosion. The same rivers run into the same lakes, but they don't look at all attractive. Evaporation. It takes place at all times and at all stages of the water cycle. 40% of the rain falling onto New Zealand goes back to the sky. The rest is ours to use. It is first made to work for us in the generation of electricity. Lakes, usually man-made, release controlled amounts of water which flow either through turbines or over spillways and down into rivers. Of New New Zealand's dams, Benmore is the colossus. 8 years in the building, 360 feet high, half a mile long. When the spillway is opened wide, water thunders down at the rate of 22 million gallons a minute. On down. Irrigation. The Rangitata diversion race takes 650 million gallons of water out of the Rangitata River every day and channels it across 40 miles of mid-Canterbury, bringing much-needed water to a dry area. Other places are not so lucky. In the early summer, South Canterbury, North Otago and Northland are all desperately short of water when it's most needed, and there's competition for what water is available. If all the farmers on the Opahi River in South Canterbury start irrigating in the summer season, the river dries up, leaving salmon and other fish stranded and dying. Down. Farms use large amounts of water. Stock drinking requirements, domestic water supply, sheep dips, livestock and horticultural sprays, machine and shed washing and so on. A decade ago, most farming wastes were poured straight into streams. Dairy farmers, for instance, were encouraged to build beside streams for that very purpose. The sad thing is that even today, in spite of exhorting farmers to spray irrigate their wastes, over half still dump directly into the nearest watercourse. Water also receives nutrients from many sources: top dressing, farming, waste discharges and natural sources. These nutrients cause the accelerated aging of a lake, known as eutrophication, danger of algal bloom and weed growth. And the weed is now a serious threat. This weed, spread from lake to lake by boat owners who carry it on their propellers and trailers, can now be found in the North Island, in Lake Rotorua, Lake Tarawera, Lake Rotoiti, Blue Lake, Lake Rotoehu, as well as down the Waikato River. In the South Island, the weed increases in Lake Rotoiti, Lake Rotorua, Lake Ellesmere and Tomahawk Lagoon. Because of the weed's epidemic proportion, eradication is impracticable. The most that can be done is to control the growth in a specific area. But new fragments drift back and start new growths all over again. Forestry, perhaps New Zealand's first industrial giant, gets the water next. At Kinleith, the mill uses 22 million gallons of water every day. At Kawerau, 27 million gallons a day. This amounts to 1/5 of all the daily water used in New Zealand. Fortunately, these gigantic consumers are now becoming conscious of their wastes. Until recently, this was the discharge. Now, at Kawerau, a clarifier removes the solids from the effluent. The liquid will then go to an aeration ponding system, as yet unbuilt, and after 10 days there, will be returned clean to the river. The solids are spread on a 45-acre wasteland. On down. The dairy industry. It requires 2,000 gallons of water to make 1 ton of butter or 1 ton of cheese. Half the dairy factories treat their effluent satisfactorily. The other half, after removing only solids and fats, pour their effluent into the most convenient watercourse. the meat industry. It takes 250 gallons of water to wash out one animal, and there are over 200,000 animals killed every day in New Zealand. Each freezing works washes down the drain the protein equivalent of 330 sheep every day. 5% of the slaughtered animal becomes effluent. This daily bloodbath is unleashed on an already dying river. Woolen mills. Most give no significant treatment at all. You can stand and watch the river change color as dye wastes pour in. And there are other industries. Breweries, food processors, tanneries, quarries, soft drink factories, ice cream factories, wool scourers, electroplating industries, chemical and fertilizer works. The outlets are usually hidden, beneath bridges, underwater, in riverbanks, on undeveloped land. Anywhere so the public can't see. For if the public can't see, it's unlikely to protest. Now the river approaches its greatest enemy. The river enters the city. The city, indifference and anonymity breeding unthinking and uncaring people. People to whom water is something that comes out of a tap. It's a service you expect. You use your shower, your toilet, your washing machine, with equal disregard for where the water comes from or where it goes. city's domestic waste must be disposed of, somewhere. Hamilton, 3 to 4 million gallons of untreated sewage poured into the Waikato River every day. Wanganui, 4 million gallons of untreated sewage poured into the Wanganui River every day. Queenstown, 100,000 gallons of untreated sewage poured into the Frankton Arm, and in the tourist season, almost 500,000 gallons every day. Rotorua, 500,000 gallons poured into Lake Rotorua every day. This is the waste that you and I make every time we bathe, wash, use the toilet, do the dishes, or whatever. The bacteria that feed on this waste multiply until they use up all the oxygen in the river. This means that not only do they kill themselves, but they also kill all other living things. Until, at last, the sea. But the water is still not free of man. The sea itself has been turned into a dumping ground. Because it's so vast, it was imagined that the ocean had unlimited powers to absorb and purify. But this is not the case, as ecologists and scientists have now realized. And serious local effects can result from indiscriminate discharges. In New Zealand, the main pollutant of the sea is sewage. Wellington, Wairoa, Westport, Hastings, Picton, Timaru, Dunedin, Hokitika, New Plymouth, Wakatani, the Hutt Valley and Greymouth all discharge untreated sewage on the coastline and straight to the sea. These outlets are in Wellington, adjacent to Lyle Bay and Island Bay, where people swim, surf, boat and fish. In Westport, the whitebait fishermen stand next to the sewer outlet. In Dunedin, this beautiful central city beach is unusable. Some local authorities have taken positive steps in the treatment of sewage. This is the Christchurch Sewage Treatment Plant, processing 24 million gallons daily. The sewage is pumped into sedimentation tanks where the solids settle. Known as sludge, these solids are scraped away and are used as fertilizers on a farm the plant runs. However, the bulk of the sewage is liquid, and this is channeled out into huge ponds where algae restore the oxygen to the water and purify it. But there's one problem local authorities have no control over: the detergents the housewife used to do the dishes. This is the outfall where the treated effluent is discharged. The detergent is also discharged. Some of it has persisted throughout the treatment and now goes out to the sea. If housewives were to use soap or soap-based powders, this additional pollution of the ocean would disappear. Finally, the last step in the cycle: evaporation back up to the sky. Evaporation, fortunately, is a purifying process. The moisture returns almost pure to the atmosphere, leaving most of the pollutants behind. But the alarming thing about waste is the way it is increasing as populations rise and more industries are established. Wise use, reuse, and non-abuse of water is imperative if we wish to conserve our available resources. As an affluent society, we are quite willing to pay for our expensive machines and for our aquatic recreations, our motorboats, fishing, skiing, and so on. But all this will be money wasted unless we're also prepared to pay to keep the water clean. It all comes down to the individual. Time is getting short. We must be aware, concerned. We must agitate, protest, make sure that our water is kept clean right through the natural cycle. Nature gives us only so much water. There is no more.